most men don't realize this. The longer you stay single, the more your mind changes in ways you never expected. Not just your habits, but your soul. And if you don't understand what's happening, you'll wake up one day completely numb to connection. Watch till the end, because the final insight explains why silence becomes your shield, but also your prison. The moment you embrace solitude, everything changes. Let me ask you something. What if everything you've been chasing, attention, approval, validation, wasn't the answer? What if the silence you dread, the stillness you avoid, holds the key to becoming the man you were always meant to be? What if the longer you stay single, the more you uncover not loneliness but untapped power? Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and instead of reaching for your phone, scrolling through distractions, or overthinking what someone else thinks of you, you feel calm, grounded, unshakable. Because here's the truth that nobody tells you. The world doesn't reward noise, it rewards clarity. And clarity only comes when you stop running from yourself. Today, we're diving deep into a principle taught by ancient wisdom masters like Chi Heng Yi, who understood that true strength isn't found in external validation, but within the quiet moments of solitude. This isn't just another self-help video. This is life-changing philosophy wrapped in practical advice. By the time you finish watching, you won't just know how to handle being single, you'll walk away with tools to master emotional detachment, build unshakable self-respect, and reclaim control over your life. So sit back, lock in, and pay attention, because by the time you finish this video, you'll never fear silence again. Before we dive deeper, let me know in the comments below one simple line. I choose solitude to forge my strength. Let the world see it, let yourself believe it. Now, let's get started. The fear of silence and why it keeps us stuck. Every single day, millions of men find themselves caught in the same trap. They wake up, grab their phones and scroll endlessly, hoping for a notification, a message, a sign that someone out there cares. But here's the brutal truth. The more you chase external validation, the less valuable you become. The more you run from silence, the louder your inner doubts grow. Silence terrifies most men because it forces them to confront the one thing they've been avoiding: their own thoughts. In the quiet, there's nowhere to hide. No distractions, no conversations to bury yourself in, no performances to mask your insecurities, just you and the truth you've been running from. What happens in those moments of stillness? The regrets surface, the choices you postponed, the promises you broke to yourself. Suddenly, it all shows up, uninvited and unfiltered. That girl who disappeared, that job you didn't apply for, that dream you shelved because it felt too risky. These aren't just random thoughts, they're reflections of who you could have been but chose not to become. Most men don't fear being alone, they fear what aloneness reveals. It's not the absence of people that scares them, it's the presence of truth. Silence strips away the masks we wear, the illusions we cling to, and forces us to face the man in the mirror, and that's where the real battle begins. At first, the silence feels brutal. It pulls at your chest, echoes every insecurity louder than any voice ever could. You're not enough. You'll always be forgotten. Nothing you do really matters. But here's the paradox. If you stay, if you breathe through the chaos, if you stop trying to escape it, something incredible happens. Clarity emerges. Clarity doesn't come with fireworks or fanfare. It arrives quietly, almost imperceptibly, a still knowing. A realization that you are not your past, not your regrets, not the failures that haunt you. You are the man who stayed, the man who sat in his own fire and refused to look away. That's rare, that's power, that's growth. Chi Heng Yi teaches us that transformation begins not in books, podcasts or self-help reels, but in stillness. It begins the moment you decide to face yourself, to sit in the storm and let it scream. Because when you stop filling the void, you reclaim what most men never touch: inner command. You wake up each morning with a quiet hope, a subtle expectation that today will be different. Today, someone will finally validate your worth. Maybe it's the girl you've been texting who replies with more enthusiasm than usual. Maybe it's the coworker who compliments your presentation, or the friend who tags you in a meme that feels just personal enough to mean something. Whatever form it takes, this validation becomes the fuel for your day, the invisible currency powering how you feel about yourself. But here's the catch: when you rely on external approval to feel good, you're building your house on sand. The foundation shifts constantly because people don't owe you their praise, attention, or affection. Their opinions are fickle, they change based on moods, circumstances, and priorities that have nothing to do with you. So why do we keep chasing what we can't control? Why do we tether our self-worth to variables outside ourselves? The answer lies deep within us, in the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we deserve. From a young age, many of us were conditioned to seek approval as a way to survive socially. In school, teachers rewarded participation. Parents praised grades over effort. On playgrounds, friendships flourished around shared interests, but also around hierarchy: who was liked, who wasn't. These early lessons taught us that being valued by others meant we mattered. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting connection, after all, humans are wired for community. Somewhere along the line, seeking approval stopped being optional, it became compulsive. Fast forward to adulthood, and the stakes haven't changed much, they've just evolved. Social media didn't invent approval addiction, but it sure did amplify it. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn aren't just tools for communication, they're dopamine machines designed to keep you hooked. Every notification is a tiny hit of validation. Someone commented on your photo. Your tweet got 50 likes. It's no wonder so many men find themselves scrolling endlessly, searching for scraps of affirmation. But these digital breadcrumbs never truly satisfy, they only leave you hungrier. And yet, giving up the chase feels impossible. That's because approval isn't just an external habit, it's an internal identity. When you define yourself through other people's eyes, letting go of their gaze feels like losing yourself entirely. You might wonder, who am I if I'm not liked? What's left if I stop caring what others think? These questions sting because they touch a raw nerve, the fear of insignificance. But here's the truth. Breaking free from approval addiction doesn't erase your value, it reveals it. Think about it. When was the last time you did something purely for yourself? Not because it would impress someone else, earn you points, or get you noticed, but because it made you happy. For most men, this question stumps them. Somewhere along the way, personal joy became secondary to public perception. Hobbies turned into resume builders, relationships morphed into status symbols, and even downtime carried the weight of productivity goals. Everything had to serve a purpose beyond itself, and that purpose almost always involved pleasing someone else. Breaking this cycle starts with awareness. You need to see the patterns before you can rewrite them. Ask yourself, how often do you seek reassurance? Do you hesitate to share ideas unless you know they'll be well received? Do you avoid conflict at all costs because rejection feels unbearable? These behaviors are clues pointing back to one root issue. You're outsourcing your confidence. Instead of trusting your own judgment, you're relying on others to tell you whether you're smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough. What makes this pattern especially tricky is that it's reinforced everywhere you look. Society celebrates men who win in visible ways, those with six-figure salaries, perfect partners, enviable lifestyles. Success has become synonymous with external markers, leaving little room for inner fulfillment. Even worse, vulnerability is still stigmatized for men. Admitting you struggle with self-doubt or crave acceptance is seen as weak, which pushes you further into hiding. You bottle up your insecurities, hoping they'll disappear on their own, but they don't. They grow louder, demanding attention in unhealthy ways. So how do you silence the noise? How do you detox from approval without losing your sense of belonging? The process begins with small, deliberate shifts, not massive overhauls. Trying to quit cold turkey would be setting yourself up for failure. Approval addiction is deeply ingrained, and expecting overnight transformation is unrealistic. Instead, focus on creating moments of autonomy where you act independently of external feedback. Start with your mornings. If reaching for your phone is your first instinct, replace it with something intentional: reading a book, journaling, meditating, or exercising. This simple act sets the tone for the rest of your day, reminding you that your worth isn't contingent on notifications. Next, examine your social interactions. Notice how often you fish for compliments or downplay your achievements to make others comfortable. Challenge yourself to speak authentically, even if it feels awkward at first. Authenticity builds resilience because it forces you to confront the discomfort of uncertainty head-on. Another powerful step is redefining success on your terms. Take inventory of what truly matters to you, not what society says should matter, but what lights you up inside. Is it painting, traveling, teaching, volunteering? Whatever it is, carve out time for it regularly. Let go of the need to justify these pursuits to anyone else. Remember, passion projects don't need permission slips. They exist solely for your enjoyment, and that's enough. Of course, there will be setbacks. Detoxing from anything addictive is messy, and approval is no exception. There will be days when you slip back into old habits, craving a quick fix of validation. When this happens, resist the urge to shame yourself. Guilt only perpetuates the cycle by making you desperate for reassurance again. Instead, acknowledge the misstep, forgive yourself, and refocus on progress over perfection. Ultimately, approval detox isn't about rejecting connection or shutting people out. It's about reclaiming agency over your emotional well-being. By untangling your self-worth from external sources, you create space for genuine relationships rooted in mutual respect rather than transactional validation. You learn to appreciate others' support without depending on it. Most importantly, you discover that your value isn't negotiable, it's inherent, unshakable, and entirely yours. When you break free from the chains of approval addiction, something remarkable happens. You realize that freedom isn't loud or flashy, it's quiet and steady. It's waking up knowing that your worth doesn't hinge on anyone else's opinion. It's choosing actions that align with your values, not your fears. And it's embracing the beautiful paradox of human existence, that true connection comes not from seeking approval, but from offering authenticity. So take the first step today. Start small, stay consistent, and watch as the world opens up, not because others approve of you, but because you finally approve of yourself. And yet, you keep wearing it. Why? Because taking it off feels scarier than the weight itself. The mask has become your armor, shielding you from judgment, criticism, failure, anything that might expose your vulnerabilities. But here's the cruel irony. While the mask protects you from others seeing your flaws, it also keeps you from seeing your strengths. It hides the real you, the messy, imperfect, beautifully human version of yourself from everyone, including yourself. Think about how exhausting this is. Every interaction becomes a performance. Every decision is filtered through the lens of what will they think. You curate your words, edit your actions, and suppress your instincts, all in service of maintaining an image that isn't even fully yours. Over time, this erodes your confidence. The more energy you pour into pleasing others, the less you have left for yourself. You start to feel hollow, like you're running on empty, wondering why life feels so heavy when all you've been doing is trying to make it easier. The truth is, seeking approval doesn't simplify your life, it complicates it. It adds layers of unnecessary pressure, forcing you to navigate a maze of expectations that were never yours to begin with. You second-guess every move, overanalyze every reaction, and obsess over every perceived slight. Did I say too much? Too little? Was that joke okay? Did they notice my hesitation? These questions loop endlessly in your mind, keeping you trapped in a cycle of doubt and self-scrutiny. But here's what no one tells you. The people whose approval you crave probably aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to obsess over your choices. That thing you said last week that's been replaying in your head. They forgot it the moment it happened. The outfit you agonized over before leaving the house. They didn't even notice. This realization can be both liberating and humbling. On one hand, it frees you from the burden of constant scrutiny. On the other, it forces you to confront the fact that you've been expending so much energy chasing validation from sources that don't actually require it. Approval seeking also distorts your relationships. When you prioritize being liked over being authentic, you attract people who resonate with your mask, not your truth. These connections may feel good in the short term, but they lack depth and durability. Friends become acquaintances, partners become placeholders, colleagues become competitors. Everyone stays surface level because that's where you've chosen to live. And deep down, you know it. You feel the absence of intimacy, the void where genuine connection should be. But instead of addressing it, you double down on the behavior that created it in the first place, hoping that if you just try harder, care more, or impress enough, someone will finally see the real you. Spoiler alert, they won't. Not unless you show them. Breaking free from this pattern requires courage, a kind of courage most men aren't taught to cultivate. Society often equates masculinity with stoicism, teaching men to suppress their emotions rather than explore them. Vulnerability is framed as weakness, authenticity as risk. As a result, many men grow up believing that showing up as their true selves is dangerous, that it invites rejection, ridicule, or worse. So they hide behind masks, convincing themselves that safety lies in conformity. But the longer you wear the mask, the harder it becomes to take it off, even when you desperately want to. If you've spent years building walls around your heart, dismantling them won't happen overnight. It's a process, one that requires patience and persistence. Start by asking yourself a simple question: who am I when no one is watching? What do you enjoy doing in private, away from prying eyes? What thoughts and feelings do you allow yourself to experience only in solitude? These answers are clues to your authentic self, the person you've buried beneath layers of approval-seeking behaviors. Once you identify these pieces of yourself, challenge yourself to bring them into the light. Share something vulnerable with someone you trust. Pursue a passion project without worrying about whether it's good enough. Set a boundary that prioritizes your needs over someone else's comfort. Each small act of authenticity chips away at the mask, revealing more of who you truly are. Yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first. Growth always does. But discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the signpost pointing toward change. Remember too that breaking free from approval addiction doesn't mean rejecting feedback altogether. Constructive criticism is valuable. It helps you grow, learn, and improve. The key difference lies in how you receive it. Are you listening to understand, or are you listening to defend? Do you internalize negative comments as reflections of your worth, or do you evaluate them objectively? Learning to separate useful feedback from baseless judgment is a crucial skill in navigating this journey. It allows you to honor your growth without tying it to external validation. As you shed the need for constant approval, you'll begin to notice subtle shifts in your life. Conversations feel lighter because you're speaking from a place of honesty, not obligation. Decisions come easier because you're guided by your values, not fear. Relationships deepen because you're showing up as your whole self, not a curated version designed to please. Even moments of solitude feel richer, filled with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're enough just as you are. Of course, there will still be days when the pull of approval feels overwhelming. Old habits die hard, especially when they've been ingrained for decades. There will be times when you slip back into people-pleasing mode, sacrificing your truth for temporary comfort. When this happens, resist the urge to beat yourself up. Progress isn't linear, and setbacks are part of the process. Instead, use these moments as opportunities to reflect. What triggered the behavior? What need was I trying to meet? How can I approach this differently next time? Over time, you'll find that the cravings diminish. The highs of external validation lose their luster, replaced by the steady glow of inner fulfillment. You'll realize that true belonging doesn't come from fitting in, it comes from standing out. From embracing your uniqueness, owning your imperfections, and daring to exist unapologetically. This doesn't mean you'll stop caring about others' opinions entirely, that's unrealistic, but it does mean those opinions will no longer dictate your worth. Imagine waking up each day feeling grounded, centered, and aligned with your purpose. Imagine moving through the world with a sense of ease, knowing that your value isn't contingent on anyone else's approval. Imagine connecting with others not out of obligation or insecurity, but from a place of abundance and authenticity. This vision isn't some far-off dream, it's within reach, waiting for you to claim it. So take off the mask. Step out of the prison you've built for yourself. Let go of the need to shrink, to dim your light, to play small. You were meant for more than applause, you were meant for impact, for love, for joy, for freedom. And none of those things can be found in the fleeting high of external validation. They reside within you, patiently waiting for you to turn inward and discover them. Your journey starts now. One step at a time, one brave choice after another. Break free from the chains of approval addiction. Reclaim your voice, your identity, your power. And remember, you don't need permission to be extraordinary. You already are. But there's another path. It's not easy, but it's real. It begins with an approval detox. Stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. Stop shaping your opinions to match the room. Start asking harder questions. Am I doing this because I believe in it, or because I want to be liked? That question alone shifts everything. You stop chasing quick yeses. You stop apologizing for having standards. You stop explaining yourself to people who weren't listening in the first place. At first, it feels like withdrawal. You feel the silence, the distance, the voices in your head whispering, what if they don't like me anymore? But you sit in it. You breathe through it. You let the discomfort sharpen you. Slowly, a new voice appears, not loud, not dramatic, but solid. Your voice, the one buried under years of performance. the one that speaks not to be heard, but because it must. And then comes the shift. You stop texting just to stay relevant. You stop laughing when it's not funny. You start honoring your time, your truth, your peace. People notice. They sense something different, a weight in your presence, a stillness in your eyes. You don't need attention, you carry it. That's the paradox. When you stop trying to be seen, you become impossible to ignore. Men who chase approval blend in, but men who choose themselves stand out not by volume, but by alignment. You know what you believe, you know what you'll allow. Most of all, you know who you are when no one's watching. Approval detox is messy. It costs you fake friends, surface-level smiles, temporary applause. But what you gain is everything. Respect not demanded but drawn. Peace not from hiding but from standing. Power not from control but from clarity. So ask yourself, are you still living to be liked? Still adjusting who you are to make others comfortable? Or are you finally ready to choose yourself? Once you do, something shifts. You stop chasing. You stop explaining. You stop performing. You simply become, and the world watches. Clarity through solitude, the path to alignment. There comes a moment in every man's life when the noise fades and what's left is stillness. Not forced, not empty, just quiet. And in that silence, something powerful happens. For the first time in a long time, the fog lifts, not because the world changed, but because you stepped away from it. Solitude is not isolation, it's restoration. It's the process of peeling back everything that isn't you so you can finally see what is. In the chaos, you're reactive, rushed, adjusting, conforming, performing. You're constantly checking if you're doing it right by someone else's standard. But in solitude, you begin to slow down, to observe instead of react, to notice what you let into your mind, your time, your soul. You realize how much of your thinking never belonged to you. The goals weren't yours. The lifestyle wasn't yours. Even the idea of success was handed to you. And you've been chasing a version of life that never felt like home. But when you pull back, when the feed goes quiet, when the phone stays down, when the weekend isn't booked out, something new appears, clarity. You begin to ask better questions. Not, what do people expect of me? But, what do I truly want? What energizes me? What depletes me? Who do I become around certain people? Do I like that man? Solitude lets you face those questions without noise, without pressure to answer quickly, without needing approval for your answers. You sit in it. You feel what's been buried. You breathe through what's uncomfortable. And slowly, the mirror clears. You stop pretending you're fine with things that don't feel right. You stop tolerating connections that feel hollow. You stop lying to yourself just to avoid discomfort. And you begin to live a life not perfect but real, not polished but honest. You start saying no without guilt. You create space not because you're distant, but because you're discerning. You begin to cut ties not out of anger, but out of clarity. Solitude doesn't just clear your head, it sharpens your sight. You become intentional. You no longer wake up to survive the day. You wake up with direction. Your routines match your goals. Your circle reflects your values. Your environment becomes a mirror of who you are, not who you were trying to be. And something else shifts. You stop explaining your choices to people who will never understand them. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove. You simply live, and your life speaks for itself. That's when you realize you're no longer available for drama. You're no longer vulnerable to manipulation. You're no longer influenced by surface-level noise. You're rooted. And that rootedness makes you immovable. People can disagree with you, misunderstand you, even walk away, and still you remain centered. Because now you're not living for them. You're living in alignment with the man you were meant to become. That's the real gift of solitude. It burns away distraction, noise, and the versions of you that were never truly yours. What's left is a man with peace in his chest and purpose in his stride. He doesn't speak to impress. He speaks because what he says matters. He doesn't chase. He builds. And he doesn't need to be understood because he finally understands himself. Call to action. Step into your power starting now. By now, you understand the transformative power of solitude. You've seen how silence, self-respect, and clarity can shift the dynamics of your life or any area of your existence. But knowledge without action is meaningless. So here's my challenge to you. Commit to embracing solitude starting today. Write this in the comments below. I choose solitude to forge my strength. Say it out loud. Own it. From this moment forward, refuse to seek validation from anyone. Focus on building yourself. Hit the gym, pursue your goals, invest in your growth. Stop waiting for someone else to decide you're worthy of their attention. Become the man you were always meant to be. And if you found value in this video, subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we can help millions break free from the mindset that keeps them weak. Remember, the real prize isn't their attention. It's the man you become when you stop seeking it.